Good morning and welcome back from that commercial break. We're still here with Ramiti and Godi talking about the stories that happened in the day and also, kind of discussing the state of national affairs. But for now, we're switching things a little bit here and there. Tuchuza mukati ku luzungu, tuze mu luzungu tuvudde mu Luganda sobola okubanga tubabulira ate nebifaayo mu maaso. Amanya gange I'm Darren Bartlett. Sijja kunnyo okubeera nnyo mu Luganda mujja kunsonyiwa nnyo. But there's something very interesting here that we're going to be talking about with my guests. I'll introduce them shortly. But the most important thing that I've also been wondering how it happens is, maybe let me just narrate something to you so you can understand. I know that most of us here deposit or money in the banks or keep our money in the banks, or you actually receive your salary from the banks. And also maybe you should also understand that your mobile money also works with banks. So in one way or the other, we are dealing with banks. But the question is then, what happens if your bank closes? Do we go back to a point where we used to go and line up, or if just a rumor came up today, let me not even talk about closing before, let's just start with a rumor. What happens if you hear a rumor that your bank is closing and it will be no more, and you have a lot of money in there? What kind of, what is your next action? Are you going to run to the bank and withdraw your money? Are you going to get worried about a bank closing and running away with your money? Maybe it has happened before, I'm not certain about that. But I know that in Uganda, we've had a history where our banks have closed. And a lot of commotion happened. Stories came after, way after, when other banks were trying to be merged with the others after they had been acquired. Those rumors still came up, and I can give examples if I go on and on. But I am not an expert in this field. We brought experts in this field to discuss these issues, and my guests actually come from Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda. So it has been available. It has been there for some time, but it's just that it's now been made an agency. But the guests I have are going to give us more information about what the Deposit Protection Fund is. I'm very certain that you've had it on our TVs here, on our radios, and also maybe different places that you are, or maybe you buy a newspaper and read about it. You get that kind of information. But in the house or on a set, I would say I have a lady and gentleman with me here. Right on my next left is the Chief Executive Officer of Deposit Protection Fund, Mrs. Julia Claire Olima Oyet. Those are quite a number of names there. You're blessed, we believe in Africa when all uncles name you, whoever you, it means they love you the most. Yeah. So we know where the love is. Yeah. It's in the CEO here, right? Yeah. And on my far left there, it's the head of information technology, Mr. Balam. I was corrected that the name is not Balam, it's Balam. So he's called Balam Sempala. Both of them are going to be giving us information here and there, and on especially what we need to know. But I'll start with Mrs. Jalia here to tell us what exactly is this agency called Deposit Protection Fund.
Okay, thank you very much, Darren, and thank you viewers for tuning in. To start is to explain what the Deposit Protection Fund is all about. The Deposit Protection Fund is a Government of Uganda agency that has been put in place to ensure that we are able to pay you in that unlikely event that your bank is closed for liquidation. If your bank is closed for liquidation, we shall pay you up to 10 million. So that is what this agency is doing, building confidence in you that keep your money in the bank. If that bank is closed, you'll not lose everything. At least you'll get up to the 10 million mark. That is the agency. That is Deposit Protection Fund.
Okay. Does this include microfinances? You don't deal with microfinances as well. I mean, if you look at our economy, there are these low earners who work probably in markets and they run to those small microfinance institutions. Okay. Do you cover them as well?
Yes, we do. As a Deposit Protection Fund, we do actually protect all depositors who put their money in financial contributing institutions, including microfinances, like Pride, for example, is one of them. And also credit institution is like Post Bank. So we do actually protect their deposits.
Yeah.
Post Bank is a credit institution.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Maybe just to add that those institutions have to be licensed and regulated by the Bank of Uganda. If it's not licensed by the Bank of Uganda, it means it's not part of the Deposit Protection Fund.
Okay, so the most important thing is that whatever institution you're dealing with, you need to know Bank of Uganda.
Yes,
Yeah.
you need.
And I like the fact that even when they're putting out their adverts, it's always closed by Bank of Uganda as its authority.
Yes.
And also, I've had Deposit Protection Fund
Yes.
on all adverts.
Yes.
So if someone is busy announcing a bank that has no those two, they should be a little bit careful to deal with them.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
So I'll go back to Sempala. Why should a Ugandan be interested in Deposit Protection Fund? Because, I mean, if I'm just putting my money and withdrawing it to go and buy in such hard times, why should they be interested?
Okay, thank you, Dalo. Ugandans need to be interested in deposit protection for the main reason is that the deposit protection actually is there to ensure that your deposits are protected up to 10 million Uganda shillings. So there is interest as one of our stakeholders, a depositor. You need to know that when you put your money in a bank, your money will be safe, your money will be protected, and even then, in the event that that bank where you put your money is closed, you will get your money up to 10 million. I think there is need for them to be interested in knowing that their money is actually safe and secure.
You mentioned a figure, 10 million, up to 10 million.
Yes.
What happens if I have 50 million?
Oh, yes, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Now, if, for example, Dallon, if you have 50 million in a bank and that bank is closed, as deposit protection, we will only pay you 10 million, up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Now, the balance, the 40 million, you will still get it. You won't lose it, but that will be a process. The Bank of Uganda, when Bank of Uganda closes a bank, the Deposit Protection Fund comes in very fast to pay off the 10 million. However, the Bank of Uganda still will appoint a liquidator who will now do the liquidation of the assets of that bank, and then you will eventually get your 50 million with time. But the immediate is 10 million that you will get.
So 10 million is to calm it down.
And
right?
that is, Dallon, that is if you don't have liabilities, if you don't have a loan. But for example, out of the 50, you have your deposit in the bank, but again, you took a loan of, say, 20 million. You see, for example, you have a loan of 20 million. Oh, I can say a loan of 5 million. Now, if we compute, we are supposed to give you 10 million, but because you have a loan in that bank of 5 million, the 5 million will be offset, will be deducted, and then you get your 5 million.
Yes, and that would be offset, especially if it is non-performing. And the reason why we would offset that very fast is because you have contributed to the downfall of that institution also. You got a loan and you failed to pay.
It could be, I may not have failed to pay, but it could be that we were in a process of, I'm paying, we've been paying, and then the bank eventually closes.
Yes.
So the fact that I have the money means
Yes.
I've contributed to the downfall of the bank.
No, if you failed to pay.
If I fail to pay
Yes, so
completely.
you have an agreement, you're supposed to pay monthly, and maybe 3 months pass, 6 months pass, and now it is called non-performing. It is not performing to the standard that it was supposed to. It means that you have contributed to the downfall of that institution. Therefore, we can't pay you. We have to offset that.
Now, Mrs. Jalia, something has just popped up in my head immediately.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this person having loans. Now, let's reverse it the other way and say, I have had deposits in the bank which are on a fixed account. And probably my agreement with the bank is 5 years. So they have my money probably, I've served my contract up to probably 3 years. It has not yet clocked 5 years, and the bank closes. what happens here? Is the deposit protection fund going to pay me plus my interest, what is due to me, and then plus the 2 years as well, because the bank then has not met our agreement? What happens in this scenario then?
Okay. Now, once a bank is closed, the agreement that you have between yourself and the bank ceases because the bank is no longer existing. So what will happen if you have a fixed deposit, will immediately compute the interest that you are supposed to get up to that date and pay you plus that. We don't now consider after that because the bank no longer exists.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been closed.
Yeah, but...
and once it has closed all the contracts between itself and the customers, that's why we'll only pay 10 million. Moreover, you could have much more.
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
that contract ends, the bank is closed, then we pay you depending on now what is provided for in the law.
Okay.
Yeah, and the liquidator will also pay you later depending on also what he recovers. So no one is forced to pay you that amount if they haven't recovered the money. So that's what I'm saying, that the contract between the customer, the depositor, and the banks ends once the bank closes.
Okay. If we go back in history, we had a bank that closed,
Yes.
Greenland Bank,
Yes.
and till today, our grandees and parents had a little bit complaints of money was not paid to them, and we are here. And we're just learning about the Deposit Protection Fund, having been there probably in Bank of Uganda before it became an agency. What exactly happened? Why is it that they didn't pay money? Even if we don't talk about them as in history, but why would such scenarios happen that people don't get money even when they the banks actually have closed and they had money with them?
Okay. Now, exactly, that is the scenario we're trying to address. First of all, when it comes to bank closures and the Greenland Bank, it's the Bank of Uganda that talks about that, not the Deposit Protection Fund, because by that time, the Deposit Protection Fund was not there.
Was not
Yeah, but
okay.
to the best of my knowledge, most of those depositors got paid, although it took some time because we were in a manual time when you had manual records, so a lot of verification had to take place, and there was a time lag. But most of them got paid, although after some time. Now, these are some of the things we want to do better, so that at the Deposit Protection Fund, if your bank is closed today, we want to be able to pay you maybe within 7 days, within 10 days, within 30 days, within 90 days, as fast as possible, so that that trauma, and that is the confidence that we're talking about. Once people are not paid their money, if a bank closes, they get traumatized, they lose confidence, and they start putting their money under the pillows, under the beds. And this is what we're telling the Ugandans, that with the Deposit Protection Fund, get that money out, take it to a financial institution that is regulated by the Bank of Uganda or any other ambit of government. So we have like the microfinance that you talked about. If they are not deposit taking, they are regulated by UMRA. So you have to be careful about where you're putting your money.
So it's not a problem. Okay, that could be an issue of the banks, but then how about the people? Do they also play part on their sides to not to get this money quite? Because I saw something like we mentioned verification.
Yes, yes.
And I've had a number of times on radio and on TV of banks to call people to verify that kind of information. Mr. Balam, what is the intention of the verification exactly? Because I mean, I came to your bank, I have given you my ID, my work ID, I have given you probably my school ID, village ID, and then you still want me to come back and verify. Why exactly do you need me to come and update or whatever, verify my information in the bank?
Thank you, Dallon. Why do we need our depositors to update your account details? Is for the main reason, actually. We are saying that in the unlikely event that the bank in which you are putting your deposits is closed, we will need to pay. We want to pay you as Deposit Protection Fund. We want to pay you as fast as possible. Now, the only way that we can do it is when we are able to identify you very fast. So we need you to update your account details with your national ID number, the name, which will help us to identify you. For example, I could have 3 accounts in one bank, and those accounts have different deposits, and they are in different names, maybe Balam Sempala or Sempala Balam, or my other, I can add actually even a third name. Balam Magezi is my other name. Now, those 3 accounts, we, as Deposit Protection Fund, we may not identify the person, the owner of those 3 accounts. You might think that there are 3 people, different people, and yet it's me, Balam, just changing the names. So what are we saying? If Balam updates, gets a name, a national ID, and the bank actually links the name to my accounts, Deposit Protection Fund will see those 3 accounts as under one person, who is Balam Sempala. Then it will be very easy for the fund to compute in the event that the bank is closing. It will be very easy to compute my deposit, the total deposit, and then they'll be able to pay me the limit of whether it's 10 million or less, or depending. So it's very, very important that as depositors, we update our accounts to make life easier. First of all, for you people to receive your money as fast as possible, but also for the Deposit Protection Fund to be able to pay out as also fast as possible. And we are also, Darren, we are doing this because we are implementing a system, an IT system, that will help us to facilitate these payments possible. Now, this system, the IT system, will need to compute all these depositors' accounts using that information, the details of the depositors' accounts. So it's very important that we update.
When you talk about IT systems, are you also onboarding on the NERA system, where you have to, is it NERA system? NITA,
yes,
NITA system, I think.
NERA.
NERA.
Yes.
So you want to kind of share information together so that it's easier to verify with NERA actually.
Yes.
This is the actual person that you're dealing with.
Yes, true.
Okay, that's
true.
interesting. I've always wanted in my life to see this banks.
Actually, it's a project we are working on right now with the different banks, together with also NERA. The updating of the deposit accounts has to happen online, because when you go to a bank, the bank will look at your card, your national ID card, and they will also have to verify that actually the information on the card is what, yeah. So we are working on that as well, and we are hoping that if the depositor turn up and update their records, it will help us to make sure that we have a database that is accurate, and we should be able to process payments as fast as we can.
Okay, that's an interesting. For those who have just tuned in, we are with the Chief Executive Officer of Deposit Protection Fund, and also the Head of Information Technology, Mr. Balam. The Chief Executive Officer is called Mrs. Jalia, and they are giving us, shedding more light on what the mandate of the fund is, what they do. Most of you have been hearing probably adverts, and their closing boards have had, oh, this bank or this your deposits are protected by the Deposit Protection Fund. I've personally had that a million times, but I've always wondered now what exactly is happening here. But I think they're shedding more light here and giving us more information on what exactly they do. But Mrs. Jalia, if I come to you, we are talking, you know, when we're talking money, someone out there thinks now they want more money from us. Do these depositors pay any money to you for you to carry out their services? Do you want them to pay anything, or it's a service that you offer free of charge?
Okay, thank you, Darren. That service is offered free of charge.
Okay.
The people who pay for that service are your contributing institution. Your bank is the one that will pay that money, and they pay it in form of a premium that is submitted to the Deposit Protection Fund every year. That is the major premium that we get. So you as a depositor, you don't have to pay any money. And I want to also add that if a depositor looks on their account statement and they notice that there is a debit related to payment of a premium to the DPF, let them raise the alarm and let them get in touch with us. That should not be happening.
So they don't pay anything?
They don't pay anything.
Okay, so who do we report to in case we have figures that are not tallying? I mean, I work with my bank, but figures are always getting out. You also protect that. Does your protection come to that level, or we only end at where the bank is closing?
Yes, Darren, we only end at where we start at where the bank closes.
That's
before that, the banks all have systems of handling customer complaints.
okay.
That is a process which is already there.
Okay.
So those processes still continue.
Okay,
Yes.
so we go back to the banks that we feel are taking our money.
Yes.
You know, reporting to your oppressor is difficult. It's difficult. I'm just wondering whether I was just wondering whether you also go as far as investigating and helping on that. But I think maybe that means we leave it to Bank of Uganda to.
Yes, you'd leave it to Bank of Uganda, but if it is related to premium, we could work together with the Bank of Uganda to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay.
Yes.
We've been talking about them being safe and all those things, but to be assured that the funds are protected. But Mr. Balam, I want to ask Balam.
Yes.
The name will sink in. It's because there is that famous name that we are all known as Balam.
But so it's okay even if Balam works.
So we can
okay.
go with that.
Yes,
with your
okay.
permission.
It's okay.
Thank you so much. But okay, but I need to practice that and get it right. And any of you can take on the question. How are you then funded? I mean, do you? How do you get the money to operate your daily businesses? I'm even calling it business. Anyway, it's business because you're dealing with money.
We do get our funding as Deposit Protection Fund through the premiums, as the Chief Executive Officer said, that we get premiums from these licensed banks, which are regulated by Bank of Uganda. And it's that premium that we, again, once we get the premium, we invest. So when we invest the money, we again get also some profits from out of the money that we have invested in government bonds and treasury bills, and that's how we are funded.
Okay,
yes.
So you also literally trade. You get the money and then invest it in treasury bonds.
Yes.
So you protect but also invest. But that investment stays with you guys.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Balamda. Let's just take a very short break. Don't go away. You're here on the Rush Hour with me, Darren Patrick.